Welcome to Nightmare Echoes. Listen, scream, and embrace your horror obsession. In this episode, Jesse's here to cover Apartment 7A. How well does this film connect with Rosemary's Baby? Does this unborn child have powers? And what is the importance of the scarf? If you'd like to follow us on any social medias, the links are in the description. Next week on the podcast is the Purge Anarchy, but until then, a movie that might get you dancing, Apartment 7A. Hello everybody, welcome back to Nightmare Echoes. I'm your host Elazar. I'm joined again by Jesse. Jesse, how's it going?
Not too bad.
Alright, today we're covering Apartment 7A, the prequel to Rosemary's Baby. A prequel maybe nobody asked for, but does it do a good job? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it does. I thought it was okay. I'm not going to claim that we have a second Roman Polanski on our hands, but
Sure.
I think it worked fairly well. I know people have complained that it was kind of derivative of the original movie, but of course it is. It's a sequel or a prequel, right?
Right.
That's the idea. And I thought it was fun, and they kind of went some new directions with things. For me, it was a fun watch.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I liked the fact that it involved dance, because dance horror is definitely passionate to me and my family, because I got to see my kid in the Nutcracker yesterday. Nice. He was playing Fritz, and so to watch the ballet be in a horror movie, I think it's fun.
Well, the Nutcracker is a horror movie based on name. Maybe not in reality, but sounds like a horror movie. I'm just saying.
I got what you're saying.
Sounds pretty scary.
It does sound scary. My wife gets mad every time I make a joke. Like that. Like, I'm gonna crack your nuts, kid. All right. It's directed by Natalia Erica James, and she wrote it along with Christian White and Skylar James. It stars Julia Gardner as Terry Ginofrio, Diane West from Footloose, I love that, Kevin McNally as Roman Castavetti, and Jim Sturgis as Alan Marchand. And I loved Jim Sturgis from Across the Universe and 21. And Mary Lee Sue, I probably said that last name wrong, as Annie. The movie opens up and our main character, who is Terry, is getting ready to go on stage. She is putting on her makeup when her friend Annie comes in. They're wearing the same outfit, and they're telling her that they're on in 5 minutes.
Did they ever say break a leg?
I don't think they did. In fact, I think somebody said good luck.
That's subtle. But that's
right.
Yeah, that's supposed to.
I wrote that down. I wrote, is wishing luck not actually a bad omen for the performers?
Yeah, they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was fascinating.
I hope that was deliberate. That was kind of neat.
I think so. There's a couple things in this movie that I think are super subtle but deliberate, and if you don't notice it, I think it's so much more impactful if a little detail is pointed out in the movie. But we cut to them in the show, which is Kiss Me Kate, which is a musical that was first shown in 1948. I have a lot about the plot, but it's basically a show where in the show they're putting on a production of William Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. But it's all about all the drama that happens behind stage of this show. So it's like a show within a show. But Terry seems to be in the center of whatever dance they're doing. She is put on top of a crate to do this leap. And when she lands wrong. Her ankle kind of bends under her. We hear some breaking of bones in a way that...
It is very disturbing, yes.
It is, right. And, right, which is why it hurts me so much.
Yeah.
Because if that were to happen to any of my children that are all in dance...
Oh, yeah.
That would be terrifying. It would be shattering. So I can relate to that on a personal level.
Well, it's certainly an evocative scene. They did a good job of getting you all excited, sort of like with the tension of everything that's going on. She's getting ready to do this great performance or whatever. You're rooting for her. And then just,
Yeah. So they close the curtain. Someone calls for a doctor, and we have a weird transition where an oxygen mask is already being put on her. And it's like a surgeon walks into the stage, but by the time the camera turns, the stage has been transformed into the operating room. And then we get our title card, Apartment 7A. We see that Terry is hobbling along a sidewalk. She walks past a man with a trumpet. She tells him that his plane is getting better, and she drops some dollars into the case. And when she goes to shake his hand as a thank you, we see that he's really concealing drugs. She's buying pain pills from him.
Right, of course.
We see her right away on the subway taking pain pills. I can't tell if she takes more than one at this point or just one. I know that throughout the movie, her doses seem to go up. Like she keeps giving herself more.
And it seems to start having side effects at some point, a little bit.
Yeah, like she gets dizzy and lightheaded. We go to her place, and there are two roommates here, Ness and her friend Annie. Ness is complaining, telling Annie that Terry needs to find her own place. Annie says that she'll cover her way for now. And Ness doesn't seem to be happy with that, saying that she eventually has to stand on her own 2 feet, basically. She can't rely on you feeding off of you forever. Then they both realize that she's there. Ness says she has a date to go on, so she just leaves. Annie tries to hand Terry some mail, but she's like, it's just bills. They talk a little bit. We find out they're really good friends, and Annie is really just willing to support her through this troubled time. Then we cut to them trying out for another show. The choreographer there is asking for them to tap dance, and he says if anyone can't tap dance, he doesn't need them or want them. As they all start tap dancing, he's just hardcore eliminating people. And we had this montage of her failing tryout after tryout. Sometimes her ankle twists wrong. Sometimes she falls on the floor in pain, and we just see her taking meds as well.
Clearly, if you're limping, you're not going to be able to make the cut as a dancer, right? Like,
yeah.
Should go without saying.
Then she looks through her mail, and she sees that Alan Marchand presents The Pell Crook at the Atkins. She is there at the casting call. She tells him her name is Teresa. The casting director is like, do I know you? And one of them whispers to the other one, calling her the girl who fell. They said, oh, you're infamous. And she's like, well, I'd rather be famous, but I'll take what I can get. She's trying to play it off like it's not a big deal. We see a few rows back from them is Jim Sturgis, who's playing Alan Marchand, the one that is putting on the show. And then this scene is pretty hard. They want her history. They find out that she grew up in a place called Hazard, Nebraska. The word hazard freaks them out.
Yeah.
She used to work at a slaughterhouse. They ask what move it was that hurt her leg, and she says jeté, which is a jump where the dancers leap and land on the weight from one foot. It transitions from one to the other while they throw themselves in the air. She explains that it went wrong, and the casting director wants to see her do the move. And he's really mean about it. Like, she does it, and she lands fine. Yeah. And he says again, and she does it again. And by the third time, you're like, this sucks.
Well, I can understand them trying to test to see if she can really do it, but I think it's fairly obvious, even after it's obvious that she can't do it.
Yeah.
The guy keeps doing it, and it seems like he's getting just some sadistic pleasure out of just torturing
her. Like, how dare you waste my time? I'm going to punish you for it.
I don't know if it was punishing her for it or just torturing her for fun, you know?
Yeah. She does it at least 10 times before she falls all the way down, and then she says something like, oh, I could totally do it again over and over all day, but I'm sure that you guys want to hear me sing, or something like that. Then Mr. Marchand comes out asking about the animals that she had there, and she said she had pigs mostly. Then he wants her to clarify what the pigs were like, asking if they rolled around in the mud, sniffed dirt, or wiggled their little tails. She says sure, and then he asks her to show him.
Right.
Like, show me what it's like to get on the ground.
Which immediately reminded me of Black Mirror.
Oh, yeah?
Right? The pilot episode of Black Mirror.
Yes.
Immediately made me think of that. Like,
that was a disturbing one.
Would you do it or not? And her reaction is very un-Prime Minister-like.
Yes. She's like, I will do anything for another shot, but I will not humiliate myself. And Mr. Marchand says, good for you, and he walks away.
I mean, I feel like they're both just sadists' explanation.
Sure.
Is kind of backed by the fact that we later find out he does, in fact, live in the evil building.
Right. So outside the room, we see that Annie's there, also auditioning for the part. We see that Terry is taking 3 pills instead of 1 now. When they're done with all the auditions, she sees Mr. Marchand locking up and walks outside. Terry tells Annie that she'll be back. Annie knows that she's doing something wrong, or this is not a good idea, but she says, don't worry about it, I got this. She goes outside and follows him, and we see that she follows him as he walks into the Bramford, which we know from Rosemary's Baby.
And this, I mean, she is obsessed. Like, You're watching this, at least my reaction was like, this is too far. Like, at some point, you really should quit. And you can say, oh, it's just admirable. She's just so dedicated and committed. Maybe, but it kind of seems like her obsession with success might actually be sort of the sin that gets her sucked into this world. If you believe sort of the horror movie theory that the character has to commit some sort of sin to justify them being a victim of whatever is going to happen.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that working for a lot of movies. So the building, though, is based off the real building, the Dakota, which is in New York City in the west side of Manhattan. But she tries to go in. She's greeted by the doorman, Toby, or doorman/greeter. He can tell right away that she's lying, that she has an appointment with Mr. Marchand. And he says, maybe I should just get you a car. She starts feeling really sick, woozy and dizzy. Probably, like you said, like from the overdosing of the pain medication.
Right, yeah.
She goes outside, she vomits, and that's right when we notice Minnie and Roman Castevet coming up. She literally runs into Roman. He kind of catches her before she falls, and then she vomits.
And can I ask, how similar do you think these actors are to the ones from Rosemary's Baby that play the same characters?
I kind of think Roman looks a lot like the original Roman. I know Diane's face well enough, but I feel like they're acted the roles really well.
Yeah, so I'm not very good with faces, but I was pretty sold. Like, even though they're not the same actors, I felt like it did feel like the same characters in some way.
Yeah.
Like, you could feel that it's those two characters. And also, the way that they act so harmless and likable is very in keeping with the original movie.
They're good at it.
They really
are just a fun couple who is looking for their next person to take care of, to give them some meaning in life. And if they can help somebody and feel good about doing it, then why not let them do it?
And that's the same way they came off in Rosemary's Baby. So,
exactly.
like, it's just really cool.
Right. And in Rosemary's Baby, that scene that we don't really see recreated here, it almost is, and it's done a little earlier. But in the original Rosemary's Baby, when Rosemary meets this character, she talks about how wonderful they are and how they've given her a place to stay.
Oh, right.
And it's just really like they give her right off the bat. These people are really nice, and they've let me in their home. They let me stay there while I was getting my feet. I used to be a drug addict, and now I'm doing really good. So I think that's kind of cool that they brought that back from that.
I did like the little references and connections. It's fun. Those kind of things are fun when done well.
Yes, exactly. So in the morning, she wakes up. She gets up to find that the cast of vets are discussing the newspaper that they're reading about world events. Minnie wants to know how she slept, and Roman wants to know if she wants coffee. Minnie tells her that she looks terrible and that Roman should make it a Bloody Mary. They all try to offer her some bacon. She tells them that she can't eat that kind of meat because once she grew up in a pig farm, she can never see herself eating that again. And Minnie does this like, huh? And then shoves a piece of bacon in her mouth, which I thought was comical. Terry apologizes for being a little fuzzy on last night, and they tell her they found her on the sidewalk like some junkie and ask her if she was a junkie. She tells them that she had mentioned that she's a friend of Alan's, and not wanting to lie, she tells the truth that she's a prospective employee. And she tries to say that why she was going there, and Minnie encourages her to waltz in there and show them that the show won't be any good without her.
By the way, I didn't happen to notice when I was watching this.
Sure.
The title of the movie is Apartment 7A. Which apartment is 7A? It's not hers.
No, it's theirs. It's Minnie and Roman's.
Minnie and Roman's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I didn't notice till the second viewing either, when I decided to really pay attention in details.
Yeah. It's interesting that they called it Apartment 7A instead of Apartment 7G.
Right. It is weird. Yeah. So she thanks them for what they did, and they both act like it was nothing. They said, what's the sense of having a guest room without a guest to stick in there? And then later, Terry is helping Minnie wash dishes, and she asks about her leg, and we find out that it's been 4 months since the accident. Minnie gives her some great life advice here. It says, it's not our falls that define us, it's what we do afterwards.
Which is good advice.
Then they take her down the hall to a different apartment that Roman says they bought as an investment. Minnie says the truth is they both wanted to be able to choose their neighbors.
I mean, you can learn so many life lessons from Satanists, you know, in this movie.
They ask her what she thinks about it, and she doesn't understand that they're offering it to her. She's talking about it's got nice ceilings and a nice view. This is when Roman jumps in. He says that this church across the street is such an eyesore, but Minnie tells him to shut up.
These darn churches.
No, he can't hide it all. Okay. But then they tell her that if she wants it, it's hers. She says she can never afford it. And they tell her they wouldn't be charging her. They said that they never got to have kids, and therefore they have a lot of money and no one to spend it on. Roman tells her that the last woman that they helped ran away from an abusive husband, and Minnie says that it scores points with the man upstairs, but Roman doesn't like this comment. But Minnie just laughs him off. It's just so awesome. Roman says they don't mean it to be forever, just until she gets back on her feet. And then they say, well, who knows? You might run into Alan one day because everybody in this building is just so friendly.
Yeah.
We cut to her back hanging out with Annie. Annie refuses to help her pack, but she's really friendly in the scene. But she's like, I can't let you go with these people you've never met. How can you trust them? Terry says they're looking for a damsel to save, and I'm willing to be that damsel if it means I get to live in the Bramford. They joke about Annie's looking through a catalog, and she sees a scarf and asks her what she thinks about it. And she says, well, you should get it. But Annie's like, well, I'd have to convince the landlord. Like, look, it was the rent or the scarf, and look how beautiful it looks on me. Which is crazy. I think the scarf plays an interesting role throughout this whole movie.
You think? Okay.
I do. We see her walking up to the building with her stuff. This time, Toby, the doorman, is happy to welcome her by name. He helps her get her stuff to her apartment. We see her then trying to move in, putting stuff in a dresser, and she has trouble closing this drawer. She pulls it out all the way, and she finds a old ballet shoe belonging to Joan Chebruski.
Which is interesting because it's like propagating this story even further back, right?
Yes.
Like it's almost like setting up for another prequel, which I don't think is what they're doing, but it's nice that it gives you this sense of just unlimited progression backwards in time.
They've been helping people forever.
That's right.
Minnie comes over with a flowery plant. She wants to be called by her first name, Minnie, because she doesn't want to feel old. Terry shows her the shoe, and Minnie says that it's nothing. It was weird because it's like Cinderella disappearing at midnight the way she ran away and then throws it in the trash. But then Terry picks it back out of the trash secretly. Minnie asks if Terry is free for drinks that night, and she asks what she should bring, and she's told, oh, it's not at our place. So then we cut to her in the mirror preparing to meet Mr. Marchand. She does take some pain pills, and we see that she has blisters on her feet. Then she goes to the apartment with Mr. Marchand's. It's really nice and stylish. There's a lot of small art pieces on shelves. He asks her what she wants to drink, and she says an old-fashioned, which I had to look up because I didn't know what it was, but it's bourbon, simple syrup, and Angostura bitters, and it's served on the rocks, although those ingredients could all be substituted.
I'm not a big fan of old-fashioned, really. But
okay.
Some people like it.
I've never had it. Terry asks if the Castavets are going to be fashionably late, and he tells her that they had double booked it and they won't make it, meaning that she is having drinks by herself. He can see that she's a little uncomfortable, so he says that she can make this a rain check, but she said no, that this is perfect, and he asks her to take a seat.
I love that they just dumped her with him.
Like, we're going to make this happen.
Right, and I also love how wonderfully skeezy they make this guy. I mean, it's fantastic for who the character is supposed to be.
Right. And so he says the Castavets are such big money spenders on the arts that you wouldn't say no to drink with their friend. So basically, I'm here because they asked me to be, and I am completely fine having drinks with you this evening.
And I love the tension with her being all alone with a guy who literally tried to humiliate her for fun. Just a minute ago, basically.
Right. And then he shows her kind of this mock-up of a play he's working on, which was a show written by Adrian Marcato. And do you remember the name?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, indeed.
So, just for the audience, Adrian Marcato was a character in the background lore of Rosemary's Baby. He was an occultist that lived in the building who was claimed to have summoned Satan, and a mob killed him outside the Bramford. In Rosemary's Baby, Rosemary's given a book by her friend Hutch before Hutch is killed, which was called All Them Witches by Stephen Marcato, who is the son of Adrian Marcato. And then in this fun Sneakers-like, even though I know Sneakers came out later, Scrabble scene, she uses the Scrabble tiles to rearrange the letters to realize that Adrian Marcato could be rearranged to be Roman Casavet.
Yeah.
And so she realizes that Roman Casavet is really Adrian Marcato. So these are all things that we know if we saw the original movie.
Right.
So while they're talking about the show, he says that Terry's from Kansas, and she corrects him to say Nebraska. And I feel like he was just testing her here to see if, like, will she correct me if I make a mistake? But it could just be that he made a mistake.
Yeah, because it could just be showing that he doesn't care.
It could be. He goes on to talk about the tribute production he's doing to Adrian Marcato's legacy. He tells her a lot of money and emotion have gone into the production. It's why he needs the best and most devoted. And the context of that word is interesting.
I agree.
She says that if he would let her audition again, and he asks her, why dance? She starts to give what he feels is like a generic answer, and he asks for what fuels her. She goes on to say that her mom died in an accident on the farm, and her father fell to pieces, and dancing made it feel like all of her problems disappeared. She says that the only time she feels like she's in control of her life is when she gets to chase that feeling. He lights a cigarette, and she asks, do you want me to oink for you now and crawl around the floor and wiggle my tail? And he acts like all of that was just a joke.
I wondered if she was going to bring it up. And that makes her seem very brave, right?
It does.
It's like, wow.
He makes a toast to body and soul, and they drink. Within seconds of her drinking, her vision goes blurry. She stands up. She falls back down. Alan says that she really can't handle her liquor and helps her up. She says she's okay, but doesn't feel well. And then she tries to walk down the hallway from the situation. And this is where we enter, just like the original movie, a dreamlike sequence where we don't know how much is real, how much is like what the brain is perceiving about what's going on.
I do remember this, but in the original, in Rosemary's Baby, I feel like it was all much more unreal. Mm-hmm. Like it was more vague. And this looks like it's filmed in a way that makes everything appear sharp and completely real and tangible and concrete. And it just doesn't make sense. So you know it has to be not real.
Right.
Which to me is a little bit different direction than Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, I like that they're going to do their own thing with it. But we get to at least know that this is so ridiculous. Like,
right.
8 hands surround her body and lift her up and spin her around in a circle.
Well, and she's suddenly on this stage or whatever that's not...
she starts going through this... Like, you see the stage, but as the stage represents, there's 3 floors. There's an attic floor. On the floor below them, there's Roman and Minnie reading a newspaper that says, God's dead, as a reference to the magazine in the first one. And then she gets down to the sub-basement level to this stage, and it's all representing the real building and what she's going through.
Right.
And when she gets down there, there's all these dancers surrounding her doing this like overhead shot dancing that you see in movies. And
it was very visually interesting sequence.
Right.
I did enjoy it, but at the same time, I kind of debated with myself whether I felt like it worked artistically without that unreal feeling. Because it just, I mean, it's odd. I don't know. I'm not going to take a position on it. It's an interesting choice. And
I thought it was done well and colorful.
Yeah.
In all of the black that it is, it's still really beautiful. And when she's surrounded by the 2 circles of men that are all dancing around on this top-down view, and then the music fades out, the spotlight goes to Alan, and when he's walking, all that can be heard is his footsteps, and then the spotlight changes to reveal a mostly black humanoid creature, but looks like he's bedazzled.
Yeah, covered in sequins. And that's why I thought that was pretty neat, because I'm like, okay, that's got to represent her lust for fame, right? Like, that's got to be what that represents.
Okay, sure.
That the real demon is her obsession with fame and sparkly fame and fortune.
I like that. I did write down that it looked like someone got the entity that killed Tasha Yar from The Next Generation and dipped him in glitter.
I think that's dead on, yeah.
Right? So the sheets pulled away, and we see that her arms are tied to their bed. Her breath becomes really heavy, and she's now scared. The creature comes up between her legs. We just see that black and sparkly look. She screams as she wakes up, and now the dream is over. She finds herself in her underwear and quickly puts on her top. Alan walks in with an espresso, which she's never tried before. He says they had a great time last night. She says she doesn't remember it, and he tries to play it off by saying, he will pretend not to take that personally. She does the whole, I normally don't do this kind of thing, and he cuts her off saying, hey, this was a one-off. And she looks upset, confused about what that means, until he tells her that she has a really big day. She asks what today is, and he goes, you really don't remember. And then he tells her that she made the choir in the show.
Casting couch. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. That's how you get the part.
A smile starts in her face, and we fade to the ballet practice for the show. We see that Annie has also made the show. The person leading the lesson doesn't like how it's going. He says that he needs a break so he can go take a cyanide pill. Which is like, oh my God. A woman named Vera, who's a tall blonde person, calls her the girl who fell and is telling her that she's dragging her step. Terry says she missed the first couple of days and she needs to catch up. And then Vera gets really close to her and tells her that, hey, if you're going to sleep your way into the show, then at least you could bring the talent to back it up. So it's not really a secret. Or she's a really good guesser. I don't know. During the scene, Terry notices a bruise on her arm, and we cut to her in the bathroom looking at it. She finds other bruises on her right shoulder, on the right side of her waistline, before pulling her pants down and seeing a big one on her legs. They're all shaped differently. She covers them up really quickly when other people come in the bathroom. Then we're back at the Brantford. She's trying to get to her place really quietly, but Minnie comes in to invite her. She tries to say it's a really long day, but when she turns around, Minnie's not even there anymore, so she can't hear her protest. Inside Minnie's apartment, she's introduced to Lily Gardenia.
Can I just say, the Castavets are very skillful at being overbearing without being obviously overbearing.
Right.
It's really an interesting way to be so domineering, but without it being obvious.
So Lily, the character she meets, who lives in 7E, is the character who died before the events of Rosemary's Baby, making the way for the apartment to be free for Guy and Rosemary to move in. So in the events of Rosemary's Baby, this character's already dead.
Yeah.
We find out that Lily was the first lady judge in the state of Texas, although she likes to point out that wasn't her official title. Minnie says she's tired of seeing Terry walk around like a cripple, and Lily gets after Minnie for the way she said that. Then she pulls out some ointment, which includes peppermint, rosemary, and one or two other odd ends. And I love that they fit rosemary.
I know,
in there.
me too. I enjoyed that. There's also, she says it'll have you flying again in no time, which I thought was an interesting statement. Do they mean flying like a witch on a broomstick? Do they mean flying like you're high? Do they mean, you know?
I think they mean floating in the air like you see ballet dancers do.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying it
Yes.
could be.
I agree.
It has a feeling that it could be interpreted more than one way.
Yeah. Which our character Terry wouldn't understand.
Right.
But I do love that as well, yes. But she gives her the whole jar, saying that she can batch another jar anytime she wants, so it's no big deal. We have a scene where the elevator doors open, but the cart isn't there. She sticks her head down, and it's almost taken off, which might be part of a dream because we cut to her in bed, dreaming about other previous events.
Right.
We see a barely lit stairway, a man in priest robes praying. While holding her belly, she's lying in a bed where she sees a figure with horns above her, which startles her awake. She gets to test out her feet and what the medicine has done. She's able to leap on the floor and land on one foot with no pain. So she keeps doing it because she's so excited that it's working so fast. Like the medicine has worked so fast.
Yeah, it's quite a potion.
While they're in breaking class, she sees Alan, which he looks away, which Annie notices. She tells Annie that everything's fine. Then the instructor comes over to give her praise for how much she's improved from practicing at home, he thinks, but it's the medicine that's helped her a lot. When we see time pass and we cut to it's a Christmas party, people are dressed up in crazy outfits. Annie's dressed as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Terry seems to be dressed up in this golden, elaborate, I don't know if it's angelic kind of costume.
Mm-hmm. I love that what's her name was dressed as a witch. That was pretty funny. The whole costume ball scene, I thought it was another one of those really beautiful scenes. Where clearly they had a lot of fun making this look really cool and making all the costumes sparkly and gold. And I love those scenes where it's clear the set designers and the costume designers had a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. We meet Laura Louise, who was the person in Rosemary's Baby that took care of baby Adrian after its birth and who lied to Rosemary about her having a stillbirth. Then we meet Dr. Saperstein, who is the doctor in Rosemary's Baby as well. He tells her if she ever finds herself with child to give him a call. And she's like, oh, that's a long way off. But he gives her a card just in case.
Irony.
Right, exactly.
Dramatic irony.
Terry looks down the hallway, and there's a few people dressed all in black, and they close the door as soon as they notice she's looking. Then we walk into Minnie and Lily arguing, and it sounds like Minnie is threatening Lily.
Who was it that was wearing the cardinal outfit?
Roman.
I thought so, yeah.
Right, which is fascinating.
It's funny on so many levels, right? It's funny because it's the opposite. It's also funny because it's like, well, I guess he's the leader of their church, right? So it kind of makes sense. And then,
sure.
And also, I mean, his name, Roman, is kind of a pun there. I mean, like, you can go all sorts of directions.
Yeah.
But
So Minnie calls him over. Roman comes in with a big box, and inside the big box is a big fur coat. Inside that coat is the necklace that we know from Rosemary's Baby, which has tannis root in it. They tell her that the necklace is over 300 years old. Nowhere in this movie does anybody ever mention the smell of tannis root. Because it was a big deal in the last movie, like how it just smelled so bad.
That is interesting.
Later, Annie and her are drinking and singing a song. Terry throws her wine glass out the window and lands on a sidewalk, barely missing a guy. Annie looks at her, wondering why she would do that. And Terry says, if you say anything, you won't get your present. So she hands her the box. She opens the box, and here's the scarf that she was looking at the magazine. Annie loves it, but is worried that Terry can't afford it. Terry puts it around her neck, and then they start dancing some more. Terry tells her that she'll be grateful forever that Annie bombed that Fiddler on the Roof audition that they met at, and she's glad she bombed it too. They dance some more. Terry puts on the fur coat. She looks at herself in the mirror, and this is where she sees like demonic hands reaching over her belly and holding it. She freaks out, looks down. The hands are gone. The jacket's on the floor.
Yeah,
Annie doesn't know what's going on.
She has to, of course, take off that jacket since it has hands, right? I mean, how many jackets have hands? It's not that common.
It's nothing. Later, she's looking at a fashion book when she starts to experience morning sickness. We see her getting sized for a costume at work, looking worried. Then we switch to her at a doctor's office where she gets a pamphlet titled The Joy of Motherhood. Then back at the dance place, Annie is wearing the scarf on her head like a ribbon, and Terry tells her that she's pregnant. Annie wants to know what she plans to do with it or plans on telling him. She doesn't want to get kicked out of the show. Annie tells her not to think about the show, think about what she really wants. Terry said it would be the end of everything she's worked towards. Annie says that she has a cousin that got one last year, and she can ask her if Terry is sure, but they don't say abortion. They just keep alluding to it, and I'm sure it was way more of a faux pas then.
Oh, yeah, back in that time period.
You're right.
Unspeakable.
Right. Then Vera comes from the stairs saying that drinking bleach should do the trick. She comes in looking all smug.
She's such a bitch.
She is a bitch. Annie tells her there was a private conversation, and Vera said you could always have someone just push you down the stairs. So Terry tries to push Vera down the stairs, but Vera catches the railing and calls her a real loon.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have...
Right, she's the loon.
Right. Then we have a scene where she's doing laundry in the basement, which is where we first meet this character when Rosemary's Baby. She can hear things from the other apartments through the vents. We see her holding a necklace when she's looking at a bottle of bleach, when suddenly pain in her stomach starts, like if don't you dare. Like the right, yeah.
The baby isn't going to let her.
Right. One of the dryers seems to open on itself. When she goes to investigate, she's looking at the dryer moving and appears to see a dead baby inside. And then a reflection of a demon comes from another dryer window. Another woman comes down whose face does look a lot like Rosemary's. But as many people point out, all the differences, the biggest one is that since Lily hasn't died yet, because we see her alive later in the movie, Rosemary could not have been living in the building yet at this time.
Unless there's some sort of time travel that happened.
Well, I didn't account for that.
I mean, it's a magic building. I don't know what all can happen there.
Yeah? Okay. That's fascinating. All right. Backstage, Vera pulls a prank on Terry. She sits down on a bunch of ketchup and mustard. Vera obviously told the rest of the women because everybody there seems to be laughing with Vera. Vera says it looks like Terry made the problem go away, and Terry replies if only her mother had the same foresight. Then Alan walks in, gets after Vera for damaging company property, and tells her to help Terry clean it up. Everyone goes to stage. Alan is there with Terry. She says that he didn't have to stand up for her because she can handle Vera. He says he knows, but that she has enough to worry about and prepare for. He bends down, looks like he's trying to help her clean the costume, but she can tell that he knows that she's pregnant. He says that good news travels fast, and she doesn't consider it good news. He says it's hardly the end of the world, and she says just the end of my career. He says that one day everyone will be able to see what she's capable of, and when that day comes, people like Vera won't be able to stand a chance. He tells her until that day she needs to stay sharp on stage and preferably yolk-free. So apparently that was yolk and not mustard? I don't know.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I think it was egg, right.
Right, yeah. Later, we see her knocking on Minnie's door, who doesn't answer, and then when she goes to her door, we see it's already open. Inside are the cast of vets who act like it's no big deal that they just let themselves in her apartment, even though, yes, they own it.
They don't really have a concept of personal space, yeah.
Right. You find out that the doctor told them, and they told Alan, which she's not happy about. But they said they want to go with her to see the doctor tomorrow, and she says she hasn't even decided if she's going to keep it or not. So they take her to go see this room where they have like a baby bed set up, right, a crib, where they've tried for what they say is decades to have a baby, and they never really could.
It was the crib from Rosemary's Baby, too, right?
Oh, that's probably true.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it. And they said if she has no room in her life for a baby, they would be grateful to take it because it would be the world of them, and they would pay her whatever she wants. And all she says she wants is to be able to keep working. They say, no, you want more than that. You want your name in lights on the center of a marquee like you were the star of the show.
Well, that's what she said before, right? I mean, that was what she had told them was what she wanted.
Maybe. Okay.
I thought.
That's possible. But they're basically saying we can make anything happen.
Right.
Your true dreams happen. Just deliver this baby and give us this baby.
Right. I do like that they keep using her desires to gain control over her like that.
Yeah.
Like that's the classic sort of Satanist trope, right? You use people's desires as their puppet strings.
Yeah. One interesting thing in this scene, when they're talking to her, she's positioned between the crib and the wall in back of her has a clock on it. The clock is surrounding her head in the camera frame, so it looks like the costume she's wearing that's all angelic.
Oh, interesting.
And that like she's wearing a headgear, but it's really they just positioned this beautiful clock behind her head.
I didn't notice that.
It's just neatly filmed.
Somewhere in here, did we get to the point yet where they made that remark, then we'll let you be in your apartment?
Yeah, they said, follow us. We want to show you something, and then we'll let you be in your apartment. Yeah, they're pretty upset about it.
I just really liked that line because it was subtle enough to be like barbed and remind her that she's under their sway, but without being so explicit as to be obviously rude.
Right. The do what we want or get out.
Yeah, but it's just the way they operate is always like this. Like they're very bossy, but not in a totally obvious way.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. We have another dream sequence here where she sees the demons with hands on her. She's in a room with lots of candles and a lot of people are chanting around her. She wakes up thinking someone's in her apartment, calls out, and does see a figure. She turns on the lights to see Lily standing there, who says she didn't want things to come to this. She apologizes before attacking Terry with a knife, and we have a scene where Terry is locking doors to try to avoid her, kind of like any horror movie chase scene in your house, right? Like trying to avoid getting stabbed. And then it sounds like Lily is stabbed, and Terry opens the door to see that she's on the floor and her hand is out asking for help, and then she's being rolled out in a stretcher. Minnie and Roman come over and tell Terry that Lily is comatose, and they all thank Terry for most likely saving her life. Terry's confused how she would have got in there anyway. Then they leave.
Just like her apartment is so open to the elements. I mean, it reminds me of a recurring nightmare that I had because of my mom, the way she used to randomly show up and intrude into my apartment in one way or another. And I used to have recurring nightmares of like not being able to find all the doors to my apartment and to like just there's always more doors that I didn't lock or that I didn't know about, and people were always kept coming in and showing up, and it's a nightmare, and it's depicted very well here, I think, that just that same feeling.
Sure. As they leave, she looks inside her pantry where she sees some dried noodles that have been spilt. She doesn't understand how they could have been spilt. She looks around, then she finds a secret passage. She goes to the other side, and she sees in this apartment there are all these plants, which is what we know about Lily's apartment from the beginning of Rosemary's Baby. She finds a book with many of the pictures of what's going on in this movie just spelled out for you.
Now, when she goes through that passage, to me, that's the turning point of the movie.
Okay.
Because to me, everything before that could be explained away one way or another.
Yes.
But that you can't explain away.
Right.
So, like, that's the moment that it's completely unambiguously clear to her that something is crazy. Like, if you found that chapter, you'd be like, what the,
Sure.
And, I mean, that's, for me, that is the moment that the sort of hypothesis that things are okay completely vanishes. Should be a more dramatic scene, and it was played pretty low-key, I think.
Okay.
Which I would have made it more dramatic, but it's still cool. Still a cool scene.
So she hears someone coming, and she runs back through the passage, closing it again. She puts the book in a bread box for safety for now.
This book is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So the title of the book, the runes spell out the word one, and the text of the book is all in Latin.
Okay.
I searched for some fragments of it on Google to see if it was a real book. I couldn't find any matches, so maybe they actually wrote all these pages out for the movie. I mean, that's kind of impressive. I was able to translate like fragments of it just because my hobby these days is trying to teach myself Latin,
Right.
And it's just a bunch of like instructions on rituals and plants, which kind of makes sense for what you would expect for like witchcraft type book, but it keeps referencing God. It doesn't reference the devil. So I'm not quite sure what to make of that. I'm still curious whether they got this text from somewhere else or something.
That's cool, though. Thank you. So they're practicing on the actual stage now. The choreographer mentions that Vera is in the wrong spot. She jokes that the spotlight always makes it hard for her to find her place. Before her leg buckles, the choreographer asks if she pulled something, and we see what looks like witchcraft as her leg is being controlled, like if someone's twisting a voodoo doll. Yeah. We hear it snap. She hits the floor. Her arms are either affected or she's just tensing up due to the pain. But it's really painful to watch as her leg is twisted in all this messed up ways.
And considering how much of a bitch they played her up to be, there is kind of the question, do you feel sorry for her?
Right. It's hard to know, right? I don't know.
Well, I mean, and I think that's neat because it exposes the demon in all of us a little bit, right? If you kind of feel like, well, good. It's like there's the Satanist hidden in you somewhere that if you don't get it under control, right?
I see what you're saying. No, I was more like, that looks bad.
Well, right. I mean, me too, I think, to some extent. And that also illustrates something, right? Kind of shows you like, see, even you wouldn't do this to your worst enemy, right?
Yeah. Because you're spending the movie thinking, man, I hope something bad happens to her.
Right.
I take it back.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right. I like that.
It's neat.
Sure. We see that Minnie is cutting Terry's hair in a much shorter style to match the picture of Vera. Terry mentions that Vera will never walk again, Mitty's getting angry that Terry isn't jumping for joy and is really concerned about what happened to Vera. Minnie eventually cuts Terry's ear and isn't apologetic about it, telling her that they've given her a role of a lifetime. Terry looks at her in the mirror and she says, "You're right." Minnie replies, "I'm always right," which isn't unlike something I say at work all the time. At work, I always say, "I don't mean to be, but it happens all the time."
I do think it's interesting that Minnie is like straight up punishing her with the scissors, basically.
Yes.
Right? Like for disobedience. And it's kind of a callback to earlier, and it's interesting.
Yeah. We then see where Terry's on the street. A bus is pulled up, and we see a young woman getting out, and she's carrying her stuff, and it looks like she's doing the same thing that Terry did. She's getting there. All her hopes and dreams are ahead of her, and she hopes to make it big one day. Then we cut to Terry, who her name is on the big marquee. It says Alan Marchand presents The Crooked Place, starring Joseph Gosselin and Terry D'Onofrio. D'Onofrio, thank you.
But it's like she's just seeing her younger self, right? And it's like the contrast between how much she's changed as the course of clawing her way.
And now that she's made it, she doesn't look happy about it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
They're having a dress rehearsal. Terry's distracted when she sees Minnie watching from the balcony, which causes her to get yelled at by the choreographer. At the end of the scene, she looks up and Minnie is no longer there. Backstage, we have this crazy removing her makeup in the dressing room scene.
I do, by the way, I like the costumes and everything in the play.
Oh, sure.
Another one of those scenes that's fun to watch that they had fun making just artistically. And it's not a real play, by the way, which...
right, because it's by Alan Marchand.
Right. I wondered if it was based on anything, but I don't think it is, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, me either. I try to research it, too. So backstage, she's removing her makeup. When she looks in the mirror, she looks at her belly, and it looks like she's already in her third trimester, but she looks again, and then her stomach is flat again. Back at home, she's trying to call Dr. Saperstein. She tells him that she's having a lot of pains, and he tells her that's perfectly normal for a mother in the first trimester, which is the same thing they told Rosemary in the first movie. She just kept having pains all the time.
Mm-hmm.
She adds that she's seeing things and wants to know if that's normal, and he says it can be because no two pregnancies are alike. She says she feels like he isn't understanding, and she thinks there's something wrong with her or the baby. He tells her he'd like to examine her and will call Minnie to pack a bag for her. She doesn't want him to call Minnie, but asks why she would need a bag, and he says it might be necessary to admit her to the hospital, and explains that there's conditions known as prenatal hysteria.
Yeah.
And she says that she isn't crazy.
And we did see that referenced in Rosemary's Baby, too.
Yeah. He says that if she's in danger to herself or the baby, measures must be taken. And then she hangs up on him. She then remembers the book in the bread box. She pulls it out. She sees pictures of the necklace, a picture of the devil that looks like it's crawling out of a pregnant woman who was bound. And that's when there's a knock at the door. She uses the peephole to see it's Minnie and puts the chain on before Minnie uses her key to just open the door.
A very tense scene. Especially since he was just threatened with, you're going to be taken away. Right?
Yeah. Minnie claims to be coming over to invite her for food because they made too much, but she tells them she isn't hungry, and Minnie doesn't leave. She says goodnight. Minnie closes the door, and Terry looks at the peephole. Minnie's just looking right back at her and takes her a while to walk away. We see Terry studying Joan's shoe that she had left behind, which gives her idea to pack and get out of there. She thinks about it for a second before taking off the necklace, put it in the pocket of the coat in the closet.
I have to wonder, just another little note on the fact that she's having all those pains, just like Rosemary did.
Right.
I've thought about what that's supposed to mean, and we've seen that the baby has the ability to make her feel pain, right?
Sure.
And I wonder if the baby is just sadistically torturing her as well.
It could be. I don't know why.
Just because it can,
Right.
I don't know. I just was thinking about that, but I'm not sure.
So she exits with her suitcase very quietly down the elevator. She goes to an office where she gets copies of old productions, trying to find Joan's name among them. Under one called The Mikado by Jordan Alfred Short, we see that Joan Selbuski is part of the chorus. We cut to a man saying Joan claimed she would be back for her things the next day, but it's been 6 months. He lets her see all the stuff. She finds rosemary beads with a wooden cross, a Bible. Although I will mention that the Bible verses in here are all mixed together from different books of the Bible.
Oh, really?
On the page. We have something from Revelations, which should be Revelations 12:9, but is labeled as verse 19 instead of 9. Ooh. And then we have verses 20 and 12 from Hosea, but not in the right order. and then John 14, all on the same page, which is just weird.
There's got to be a reason for that.
I don't know. Someone did a really bad job of copying and pasting?
Well, but I mean, it's not hard to get a hold of a Bible.
I agree with you. I have no idea why they would have not just used a Bible.
It must be significant.
Yeah, I don't know. But I just know that all those were on there. The only one that is mislabeled for the actual verse number is 19. All the other verse numbers are correct, but they're from Hosea, Revelations, and John on the same page.
The verses themselves must be important.
They could be.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like what they're trying to each say something.
Right. But as she holds the Bible, it starts to burn her hand and she drops it.
And I like that. I don't think we saw that concept in Rosemary's Baby. I don't think Rosemary was ever like burned by a cross or anything.
Right.
And I think that is interesting that the baby is able to to make her that unclean.
She brings that book that she found in the other apartment to the church. And when she goes inside, she sees that the baby is hurting. She falls over from the pain. She gets on her knees to start praying, and a nun comes over to check on her. She needs to know what's wrong with her. The nun asks her where she got that book and tells her she needs to stay far away from that book. She talks about the Branford is rumored to be the home of Satan worshippers. Terry shows the nun the picture of Joan, who tells her that the Satan worshippers were doing terrible things to her. We find out that the night she ran away, she was hit by a bus, and while papers report that she was losing her mind, there are eyewitnesses that say she was being chased. The nun mentions that the story of Adrian Marcato is the son, but doesn't mention him by name. Then Terry grabs her belly, and this is when the nun realizes that she is with child. She drops to the floor praying, and Terry tries to ask her what happened. She looks at Terry and tells her, if that child is born, God have mercy on us all.
I'm kind of disturbed that the nun doesn't try to do anything to help. You know, like take her to the priest, ask the priest about it, or like, I don't know, maybe she should drink some holy water. Maybe that would give her an abortion.
Maybe. Then we see Annie walking with Terry to get an abortion, which seems to happen on some back alley shop. She's going to be given no anesthesia for this and is going to be awake the whole procedure. Terry's not doing well, and when a second instrument is inserted, the pain grows intense, and the woman doing the procedure is kicked by Terry against the wall. Terry tries to apologize, and then the woman looks like she's being tortured by some unseen force, and her body seems to be controlled. Mm-hmm. Outside, Terry tells Annie that this is all her fault, but Annie says whatever happened in there was not normal. Terry blames herself and tells Annie the same thing happened to Vera. Annie says it isn't possible for Terry to have done these things, and she agrees, saying that they did it and that they did it to Vera and Lily. Annie says that whatever they do, they will handle it together, and Terry says that she has to face it on her own. At nighttime, Terry is back at the Branford. Toby welcomes her, but she doesn't respond. She takes the elevator down to the basement and calls out for Minnie, though I don't understand why she went to the basement here. She gets back in without hitting the button of the elevator. It starts going up. When she gets out, it's very dark, and she sees flashbacks of the night with Alan. She finds her way to a room with a small theater, which is very dark and has rows of red chairs.
Yeah. Somehow she managed to go... Yeah, she went further down.
Oh, I thought she... Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
She went down to a sub-basement below the basement.
Okay.
Which I thought was very cool. And I was thinking, like, if I ever decide to build an evil apartment complex, I'm absolutely adding a sub-basement like that.
That no one knows about, right?
Yeah, that you access in some weird way. Like, that's so cool. Definitely. Everyone with an evil apartment complex needs that. And I also love how, like, she's starting to go crazy by this point, right? Like,
sure.
she seems to be, I mean, understandably, but it's like, it's just a parallel with the first movie that, like, all the stuff that's happening is actually driving her, she can't handle it, which, I mean, who could, right?
Right. On the stage, she sees an altar with a demon head, a golden chalice, a dagger, a red cult book, a candle, and a rope from the things I could see. Alan walks on the stage from another entrance, and she asks him what this place is, and he is shocked that she really doesn't remember. Then she gets a flashback as people in dark robes are chanting with candles all around them and symbols on their forehead. She remembers the rape, and she tells Alan that he violated her. He says she practically begged him for it, which rapists say.
Yeah, I mean... Is he kind of right, though? Because, I mean, didn't she seem like she was willing to do that to get the part?
I don't know that she was willing to sleep with him. I think she was willing to have drinks with him.
Okay. Yeah, I may have misunderstood that.
I mean, I don't think we ever even let it get to the part where she could have made a choice to do it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what they were getting at there.
As he gets closer, she picks up a dagger and points at him, but he starts to play with her, calling her a marvel. She asks him to stop, and he says that while she craves the spotlight, she belongs in the dark. He calls her the girl who fell no more. She screams for him to stop, and then she stabs him. He asks if she feels powerful. She pulls out the knife, and he falls onto the stage. She remembers more about the rape before looking up and seeing the devil at the end of the stage. She screams and runs away. She takes the elevator up, and when she gets to that floor, Toby has locked the door, and she's not allowed to leave. She goes back to the elevator to the floor where her apartment's on and locks herself inside. She hears jazz music playing. She runs to the kitchen for a knife. On the couch is Minnie, and she calls Roman to come in. Okay, this is what I didn't see on the first viewing that I now see. Minnie is wearing the scarf that Terry gave to Annie in this scene.
Huh. Well, what does that signify?
I think that means they killed Annie to get her out of her life.
Oh, because she was an ally.
She tried to help her have an abortion.
Oh,
and I didn't see. I took pictures, like to snapshot, to look the scarf and compare them. It is the exact same scarf.
That is,
and that's just like a subtle thing that they don't call attention to at all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I had to really pay attention in the second viewing to notice, hey, that's the scarf.
Yeah,
which broke my heart when I saw it.
Yeah.
Terry tells them that she knows who they are and what they did to her. Roman tries to get Terry to sit down. Terry says she knows all about Joan. And Minnie asks, so what? Terry says that she won't be a part of it. Minnie tells her that it isn't how that works. She needs to remember how she was when they found her and reminds her that she has a deal. Terry says it isn't worth this. She turns the knife on herself, threatening the unborn child. Roman seems scared, but Minnie tells her that she needs to aim a little lower, sweetie. Terry tries to stab herself, but an unforeseen force stops her. Unseen force stops her.
That shouldn't be surprising, considering that.
Yeah. She struggles, but eventually drops the knife and falls to the floor. Minnie tells her that the baby doesn't like that, and the baby's here to stay. Roman tries to help her up, and she tells him to get away from her because he is evil. He then says that when he was young, his father was attacked by a mob because he harnessed a dark power. Terry realizes that Roman is the heir, and he says that conjuring the devil was just the beginning, adding that they need a human vessel. Minnie comes over to ask if she really thought Alan was the father. Minnie says that they're a family now, and that Roman says he can't wait for the world to discover what a treasure she really is. Terry says she could have made it on her own. Roman says he knows, but Minnie says that this is the role she was born to play. It takes a bit, but she lets Roman help her up. While Roman gives a voiceover about what is to come, we see Minnie help her clean up and then walk her to her place. We see all these pictures now hanging up, evil pictures like in the end of Rosemary's Baby.
Right.
They lead to a room where others are waiting. They all clap as she enters. She's wearing the necklace again. Roman declares that God is dead and Satan lives, and this is year one, just like in the first movie.
Very celebratory.
Yeah. Then they all chant to Satan. Terry is handed a drink, and she downs it in one gulp, and then proceeds to walk around the room.
This is a really cool scene to me, because it's like it's a different vibe from the end of Rosemary's Baby.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not as much foreboding. Instead, you get the feeling like, oh, she can't do anything. She's accepted that she's powerless, and she's just going to try to drink herself into enjoying it, right? Like, and just try to find it. She's like just abandoning herself entirely and just gonna. It's a really cool. I love the way she acts. The acting is perfect, and it feels exactly right the way that she starts acting.
So she starts to dance around. She kicks off her shoes. She starts dancing with different men on their laps. She goes to Minnie and tells her she's right. And Minnie says what she said earlier in the movie, always am. And Terry says it's role of a lifetime. She smiles and she does the jeté, which is what she broke her ankle on in the beginning of the movie, towards the window, sits on the windowsill, gives one more big smile, and everyone else seems to be smiling before she throws herself backwards out the window. And we can see Minnie scream, but we can't hear it. She hits a lime green VW bug before rolling onto the sidewalk. The camera pans to show us her dead body, and then the people run up to see what happened.
And that was the scene at the beginning of Rosemary's Baby, right?
Well, they had moved in for a little bit first.
Okay, not the beginning.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So then the credits roll, but then there's one more scene.
By the way, that's a phenomenal ending.
Oh, yes.
Because even though we know that she has to die at the end,
right,
I totally didn't see it coming. And that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, man.
And it was really cool. And it made me think of something that I didn't think of before, which is with Rosemary's Baby. You think of her as sort of having kind of no choice and being manipulated into mothering this child that she wouldn't normally have done, right?
Right.
But now they're showing, no, she had a choice. And in fact, they'd tried with multiple people before who apparently managed to resist them or managed to kill themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
And Rosemary was just the one who made the choice to be the mother of the child.
Right.
And it was that choice that the devil was waiting for someone to make that choice, I guess.
Sure.
And that caused me to reinterpret the ending of Rosemary's Baby, which I think is a really cool thing.
Yeah, I agree. And then after a little bit of credits, we then see Guy and Rosemary, although we see them from behind, so we don't see their actual faces, talking to a cop. Then Minnie and Roman walk towards them. They share a look, like if, hey, this is our next mark. And they start walking towards them, although it fades to black before they make it to them. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the movie. Yeah, I thought it was really colorful. I love the dancing. I do love the portrayal of Minnie and Roman. I think they did a phenomenal job of it. I was heartbroken for Annie.
Yeah, it was a really cool movie. I enjoyed it. And I loved the Rosemary's Baby music at the end.
Yeah.
So it's like, now we get to the next movie.
Right. Yeah, it was good. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been Nightmare Echoes. We have episodes every Monday. Next week, Margot's back to talk about Purge Anarchy, which is the sequel to Purge, where I drive Margot crazy by talking about every single gun someone is holding in that movie. So come back for that. Thanks, and bye.
Don't throw yourself out a window.
Oh, please don't do that. Bye.